You say you two are in a good place right now, or able to maintain a friendship, or?
Oh yeah, we're still in the same house and we're maintaining.
Go ahead. We are so sorry about that, guys.
Okay. Um, I absolutely don't know what happened right there. I think maybe we can hear. All right. So if you guys are hearing, I don't know. Can somebody indicate that
Yes,
they're
I'm
hearing?
hearing you.
So we were just wrapping up Judge Mattis, and we were talking about how um, we pray for his relationship, and hopefully everything will go well with he and the wifey, and hopefully they can resolve whatever differences that they are experiencing at this moment. I get it, it's really tough trying to navigate this thing called marriage. And hopefully, he will figure out, or they will figure out a way how to bring everything together. So we're praying for them. And hopefully their relationship will get stronger, and hopefully this will be kind of a teachable moment for them as they try to navigate this thing called marriage. Is not easy. That's why not a lot of people get up and do it, right? And those who do it, they have a reverence for it, and they understand the complexities that lies there within.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't take it serious, they'll do it for 30 years and get out, 20, 10, 15, 5, 3, and they'll just get out. They get tired of doing it. So we just pray that they can get to a place where they can resolve the differences that exist between the both of them. We are praying for that. Nobody wants to see a marriage um, break up, or just, as one philosopher would say, just be disintegrated. So we are praying for them, and hopefully they can resolve whatever differences that they have going on. God bless them as they try to fix this. I do believe that when marriages um, have come to this space, that it's only God who can intervene and do a good work. Again, it's important for couples to follow God's blueprint for marriage and not society's blueprint for marriage, not your career blueprint for marriage. And this is why people get in trouble, because they are following the career path, the 600 figure jobs, being on TV, the spreading yourself from LA to here to there, and people feel neglected. I don't want to.
Because by society's definition, she should be happy, right?
Absolutely.
Because
She has a husband who's
that's
making over six
making
figures.
money. Yeah,
He's popular.
exactly.
But you could see that those things in the long run does not satisfy people. Those things in the long run are materialism. Materialistic stuff cannot make a marriage a strong and healthy marriage. A strong and healthy marriage is a strong and healthy marriage when two people are in Christ, when they are in the Lord, when they are following the principles of God, when they apply themselves to what God has laid out for the marriage,
Right.
when they are communicating effectively, when they're spending time together, when they're, just learning how to live together. So, yeah, the sick, sad notion, I think, is that I think Judge Mattis kind of bought into the kind of Hollywood um, prescription of marriage. You know, you marry somebody, just have them home, you go home whenever,
Mm.
and you expect them to be there. And sometimes they are not there. They might be there in body, but they're not there in spirit and soul and emotions, right? And so it
Mhm.
gets people in trouble when you are not following God's blueprint. You know, a show that I used to watch very regularly a long time ago, it's called Cheaters. Now, I don't agree with everything that goes on Cheaters. I just don't. But one of the things that the women will complain about and say the reason why they went out and sleep with someone is because the men are never there. And then the men would say, yeah, but I'm out working,
Mhm.
building a life for the both of us. So the the idea here is that the woman should learn to adjust when the man is not at home because he is out primarily working to support and to give the woman a life that she wants. And so there's a sacrifice that comes with that. Well, it never works. We could see that is a failed enterprise. So people have to find a way to balance life, find a way how to work and at the same time fulfill the needs of the other. Because that is marriage. Marriage means sacrifice. You have to sacrifice, and you can't take the other for granted. So I don't know what happened there with the both of them, but I'm praying for the both of them. And maybe let's move on from them now. But maybe there's some of you out there who are struggling with the same problem. I think Judge Mattis' problem, it's an American problem. It's a kind of society problem, right? In most marriages, where you have two people who are not on the same page when it comes to emotions,
Yeah.
finance, values, things like that. Some people it doesn't take much to for them to be comfortable. Some people just little things, saying little things, going little places, and they feel comfortable. But when you don't give anything, it can be it can be a challenge. Um, in my own marriage, at times these are things we have to keep our eyes on. I'm not saying we do. I'm just saying, given what you hear in society and what's going on, you have to reevaluate where your marriage is with the person. And you can't take for granted that, oh, this person's happy. Because if anything life has taught us is that people act like they're happy, but they're not happy. And so sometimes people stay in a relationship because of various reasons, and they will never say it, but they have their plans to exit the back door. And so, yeah, as men, we have to be vigilant. We have to be
Present.
present. We have to, um, have our fingers on the pulse beat of the relationship because it can be dead and we don't know. If you notice, one of the first things you do when you call 911 or somebody gets sick, the first thing they're checking for is a couple things: blood pressure, pulse, you know, sugar levels. I don't know. So there's some things. Vital signs, is all the vital signs working properly? Is there balance? I think I think as men and women, we have to check for all the vital signs. Well, hopefully he'll get better. They'll check the vital signs and they'll get better. One of the things I hope for is that you and I don't have this crazy. Hey, listen, we're hearing about people who've been married for what, 60 years, and they decide to call it quits. I just heard somebody who got more than 60 years, 70 something years, and they are leaving the marriage. Um, I think Mathis is over 30 years. Not quite
I'm
sure, but
not sure. His
he's leaving too. He doesn't want to leave. So I just say that to say, listen, keep the pulse beat of your marriage. Check it every now and again. Make sure that you understand where the vital signs are, and check up on one another. Check
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
check up. Folks, do your checkup, please. Do your checkup. Again, we're sorry for the interruption. Boy, we're gonna try and reset this on on next week again.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Technology. I mean, the
crazy.
thing just went dead. But we're glad that you were able to come back.
And I
Thank
know
you.
I think our energy is a little bit zapped, to be honest with you. But I can feel it.
It doesn't have to be.
Maybe you
though.
guys feel it too, but I think we're just trying to regain core. All right, so let me give you real quickly, and then we're gonna try to reset this thing for next week. Let me give you a sneak preview of what's coming up. I want to get my Bible here, and and we're gonna talk a little bit. All right, let's go to the book of Esther. Let's leave. Let's go to the book of Esther. And Esther is a pretty interesting book. I'm going to be doing a series on this book called Providence in a couple. I'm preparing for that series. But let's go to the book of Esther. Nehemiah. Sorry. Just before Nehemiah, you have First and Second Chron. My Bible, Ezra. Where am I now? This is so. So I want to leave you guys with something
It's
here.
before Job.
Right? It's, I think, just before the book of Job. So it will come right after the book of Nehemiah, I think. My pages are so. There we go, Esther. And we're going to start a series also on this book, the book of Esther. If you have your Bibles, turn to Esther chapter 1. All right? And we're going to do Esther chapter 1, and I'll tell you in a moment why we're going to do this. Okay? Let's start from the 10th. I'm sorry. Let's start from verse 1. And Lois, you can start to read. And then as you read, I will interject and kind of spread the story and give a little background, and we'll show how in relationships this is very important. Go ahead. Start from verse 1.
Okay.
Xerxes is his name, of course. Go ahead.
So I'm reading from the New Living Translation.
Okay.
These events happened in the days of King Xerxes,
Mm-hmm.
who reigned over 127 provinces stretching from India to Ethiopia. At that time, Xerxes ruled his empire from his royal throne at the fortress of Susa.
Okay.
In the third year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his nobles and officials. He invited all the military officers of Persia and Media, as well as the princes and nobles of the provinces. The celebration lasted 180 days, a tremendous display of the opulent wealth of his empire and the pomp and splendor of his majesty. When it was all over, the king gave a banquet for all the people, from the greatest to the least, who were in the fortress of Susa. It lasted for 7 days and was held in the courtyard of the palace garden. The courtyard was beautifully decorated with white cotton curtains and blue hangings, which were fastened with white linen cords and purple ribbons to silver rings embedded in marble pillars. Gold and silver couches stood on a mosaic pavement of porphyry, marble, mother of pearl, and other costly stones. Drinks were served in gold goblets of many designs, and there was an abundance of royal wine, reflecting the king's generosity. By edict of the king, no limits were placed on the drinking, for the king had instructed all his palace officials to serve each man as much as he wanted. At the same time, Queen Vashti gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. On the seventh day of the feast, when King Xerxes was in high spirits because of the wine, he told the 7 eunuchs who attended him, Mehuman, I don't know how you say these things, Bizda, Harbona, Beta, Abagtha, Zethar, and Karskas, to bring Queen Vashti to him with the royal crown of her head. He wanted the nobles and all the other men to gaze on her beauty, for she was a beautiful woman. But when they conveyed the king's order to Queen Vashti, she refused to come. This made the king furious, and he burned with anger. He immediately consulted with his wise advisors who knew all the Persian laws and customs, for he always asked their advice. The names of these men were Karshina, Shitar, Admatha, Tarshish, Merish, Marsina, and Memucan, 7 nobles of Persia and Media. They met the king regularly and held the highest positions in the empire. What must be done to Queen Vashti? The king demanded. What penalty does the law provide for a queen who refuses to obey the king's orders, properly sent through his eunuchs? Mamukan answered the king and his nobles, Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but also every noble and citizen throughout your empire. Women everywhere will begin to despise their husbands when they learn that Queen Vashti has refused to appear before the king. Before this day is out, the wives of all the king's nobles throughout Persia and Media will hear what the queen did and will start treating their husbands the same way.
All right, stop right there. Okay, stop right there. So I've just given you a preamble to what we're going to be discussing on our next program.
Mm-hmm.
What we have here is a queen or a woman who has openly disrespected her husband before his royal friends and advisors and before the 127 provinces leaders. Everybody, the who's of who was there, who is who rather was there. And so he sent for her. This was not something that she was not used to. This was a customary thing. But for some reason on this day, she decided that she's not having it. And this was a bad thing. Okay, all right. So why am I discussing this? I'm discussing this because a lot of times there is a lot of ill will, ill feelings, and disrespect that happens to husband and wife privately, and it is outpoured publicly. You could see that for whatever reason, she was not feeling the vibes or feeling the fact that her husband was once sending for her to parade her like she's a trophy. She maybe didn't really want this to happen. It seems so. But what was so different about this is that she was throwing a party too, where she was with her girlfriends, and she was comfortable with her girlfriends until he decided to bother her and send for her in the midst when she was dealing with her girlfriends. So there's a lot of underlining meat here that needs to be unearthed. There's a lot here to talk about when it comes to relationship. One thing we can know, respect comes up here, right? The king felt disrespected as a king. Number two, in my book, listen what it says. It says this, 18. Mine says, This very day, the Persian and Median women of nobility who have heard about Queen Vashti's conduct will respond to all the king's nobles in the same way. There will be no end of disrespect and discord in the kingdom. In other words, when other women get a hold of what she has done, there is going to be, all hell is going to cut loose. Because in homes, women are going to start to act disrespectful. This speaks to, how we model respect as a society. There's a lot going on here. How do we, as women and men, model respect in our, not only in our home, but in our society? How is this going to look to other women when they see a woman in public disrespect her husband like that, or a man in public disrespecting his wife like that? So there will be no end to what can happen in terms of community-wise. So that's another level that we have to look at, right? The second level there are other things that we have to look at in terms of what had happened. How is he going to respond now to this disrespect? You understand? When we get into the story, we're going to see that his response was taking the word of his nobles by excommunicating her from the kingdom. So in other words, she's married, but she's out.
Yeah.
Which brings up the issue of, what can I divorce my spouse for? Is this a divorceable offense? We're going to talk about that. Divorceable offense. All right? I could break this down for you guys. There is so much here. Remember, we start with saying respect is one of the things that we need to talk about between male and female. Number two, we need to talk about how we model respect in public can greatly influence how other couples model respect. Thirdly, we're going to look at, she was put away because of her actions. Is that a divorceable offense? She's done as far as this woman is concerned. She has lost her husband.
I don't think we ever did find out what happened to her.
No.
They never talked about
No, they never.
Right?
Oh, she was over. We're also going to talk about the fact that he immediately went and had a beauty pageant and was
He didn't waste any time.
He didn't waste any time. We're going to talk about what is the time, how long should it take for somebody who is divorced to go back in another relationship? Do you give yourself some time? Do you jump back right in? So that's one thing. Go ahead.
I get what you're saying, but I think for him being a king,
that didn't matter.
Yeah, he didn't care about that. He just knew he needed
another woman,
a queen that
could carry out the royal duties according to how he sees it.
Yeah.
And that lends us another question. There are men who want women to do what they want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there are women who believe that when they come into relationships, they must have a say to do what they want to do. That's another layer. And I'm taping it now because I'm going back, because I'm going to talk about all the layers. So that's the thing. All right. Another issue that we're going to talk about is one woman's demise can mean another woman's treasure. Sometimes women disrespect men and, they have to move on, and the man will find someone who is able to meet his needs and take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny sometimes. How does all of that play into relationships today? Is it that sometimes we need to walk away from the person we have now to bring somebody else in our lives that's going to help us out or to push us to the next level? Clearly, it seems to me like King Xerxes wanted to move to the next level, but he had a wife that didn't see things his way.
Yeah, and another thing you have to think, he was in high spirits, so he was
Well,
That
you're
means
saying he was
wasn't-
inebriated. He was inebriated. He was drunk.
Yeah, he was drunk
Okay.
at the time.
Well, he wasn't drunk to let her go. I mean, obviously, he's so. Well, you're saying he probably wasn't in his right mind when he let her go.
He didn't think much of it.
He didn't think it through,
Yeah, he didn't give it time, is what I'm saying. He just listened to the nobles and
and that was
took
it.
their word for it, but he didn't listen to her side of it. Why did she not want
Thank you
to
so
come?
much. Which raised another question,
She didn't have any rights.
another
at that.
level. Then,
Yeah.
and you saying when a relationship gets into problems, people need to calm down and listen and take some time
Yeah.
before you make any
Sure.
kind of
Permanent,
finalized decisions. So
Yeah.
that's another level we can think about. All right. We can also think about, and we have much more here to talk about as we go forward. Now, also, what will happen here now is Esther will come in and take her place as the king's woman. She's much more humbler. She's very much, she's not as, she doesn't have the temperament as Vashti.
All
That's
right.
for sure. When she's called, she comes. When the king needs her, she's there. And it talks, and here's another level to talk about temperaments, the temperament of women, the temperament of men, and how those temperaments sometimes can affect the relationship that we have going on with each other. Some of you will nag your man to death.
Oh God.
Some of you men are miserable to death. Temperament. Some women are temperamental. Some men are temperamental. There is so much here to discuss and parse. Different layers we're going to talk about. What really grabbed me with this situation is that this is really what grabs me. Could it be that the woman you're with today is not the woman God has designed you to be with? Could it be that the woman you're married to today is not the woman God has ordained you to be with? Because it just seems like Esther was ordained to be in this king's life. So this woman seems like a startup woman. Right? I'm not saying that this is the case, but clearly there is some providence here going on, right?
Yeah.
This will not ultimately be the woman he would finally end up with, the woman who will push him into greatness, the woman who will, by his side, see one of the greatest Persian kingdom come forth in the history of the Bible, because this man was paired up with Esther, a woman of God.
Yeah.
So could it be that some people have married the wrong person? Could it be that some people have married a person and that person is a filler until the right person comes along? I mean, I'm not saying that this is what I am promoting, but these things, these scriptures, they beg the questions. They have set in motion things that we can talk about. Clearly, her disrespect of the king opened the door for Esther to come in the king's life. And let me tell you something. She was not letting that king go. She said, girl, you walked out of here with your attitude. I'm staying here with beatitudes. So look, sometimes
Upbringing, though. The upbringing. Her upbringing was totally
could be
different.
that Vashti's upbringing was a little bit more salty than Esther. That's what I'm saying. There's just a lot of things here that we can parse and talk about. So I want you to stay tuned for this series. Those things that you have heard me kind of talk about. Going to talk about divorce, life after divorce. How long should you kind of get hooked up after divorce? All these kind of stuff, because as you know, he must have divorced her. She was banished from the kingdom. Yeah. And it's a sad story. Why would you in this moment decide that you are not going to such a powerful man? Why?
And that has always been
Be-
my question.
Why would you
What was going on
on
with
in you,
her?
with you that you decided that you are not, you're going to disobey
Something
this
must
man?
have happened between them before that.
And yeah, and we're going to talk
Although
about
I
it.
know they don't meet like every day, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, she will only come in the king's presence
Yeah.
when she's called, by the way. By the way, the king would have to hold out his scepter. And when he held out his scepter, that's how, if he decides to give you an audience, holds his scepter out and you come in. This is what made Esther going before the king so complicated, because he didn't call her. She just turned up because Malachi challenged her. Mordecai challenged her
Yeah.
to go before him unannounced.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the whole thing in a different historical, socio-political, everything, a different motion. So we're going to be talking about some very interesting things in the book of Esther. We're going to look at divorce. We're going to look at a lot of things that I think will be an interesting study. And we'll just start from some of the things that we talked about, the first
Right.
one, and we'll go down. First of all, the idea of we're going to examine why it is that she decided not to go, and why it is that she disrespected her husband in the way she did. And I feel like he brought injury to her too, because why are you talking to your nobles instead of talking to your wife? Your wife, you need to go have a conversation with your wife
Right.
to find out what is going on with her. And many men today are not having conversations with their wives. They'll rather go out and talk to somebody else, right? Look who he went and talked to, his nobles. I get it. It's a kingdom. It's set up this way because, he has intermediaries, people, in between, even him and his family. But this is a personal relationship with you and your wife. She deserves to be talked to, not to be banished. And a lot of times, as men, we take the road of banish rather than the road of commitment,
Right.
rather than the road of conversation to talk about issues. All right, we are going to leave. We were just trying to do a setup. Again, we apologize for the inconvenience and the intermittency of the program and how intermittently we were just coming in and out. We are so sorry for that. We're going to try next week, and we pray to God that this won't happen. Listen, read on the book of Esther. It's going to be a fascinating journey in the book of Esther as we examine some of the contour and some of the shapes and sizes of relationships and different relationships, problems and troubles. Please join us for this particular study. It will be a really good one. God bless you until we meet again next Sabbath. At what time, everybody? At 5 o'clock. See you there. Don't be late. Make it a date. Congratulate, celebrate, appreciate, levitate. We'll see you next week. God bless you.
Bye, everyone.